you can tell me if you see me. Can you just keep an eye out?
Hello, everybody. We're going to get started. We might have some people coming in. I want to thank you for coming out tonight. I know it's a cold evening, and I know that a lot of people are suffering, unfortunately, from some illnesses. So we really appreciate you coming out tonight. And I want to welcome everyone on Facebook, Facebook Live, Facebook. If you're seeing this tomorrow morning, good morning, or good afternoon. So we're going along with our monthly theme. I'm going to be introducing our speaker tonight. Normally Steve does, but unfortunately Steve's feeling under the weather. So Steve, if you're watching, we really hope that you feel better, and we miss you. Get well. So I'm going to introduce, I'm just going to jump right on in. I'm going to introduce Jonathan Ledlow. Was that right? Okay. Jonathan is a wonderful individual who I've had the pleasure of working with and having much contact with via phone, and tonight was the first night I met him, which is awesome. Jonathan works for Discovery Institute, but he is a person in long-term recovery. Jonathan is about to celebrate in August 18 years, so he's 17 and a half years out of recovery. That's amazing. So, but Jonathan is here to speak from the heart tonight on the topic of self-love, because tomorrow's Valentine's Day. We have the theme for February of self-care and self-love. So we're going to hear about that tonight. All right, so if we can welcome Jonathan with a warm round of applause. Come on
up. Wow. I've never been on Facebook Live. And I saw what you did there, Lindsay, with the Speak from the Heart Valentine's Day. That was good. That was nice. I'm an introvert, which means that this is not really like my most comfortable position, but I am an extroverted introvert when it comes to talking about recovering from the disease of addiction. And when we talk about self-care, when we talk about self-love, that's what was necessary for me coming out of active addiction, the horrors of active addiction. My story is complicated. I was adopted at birth. Like, I've had, like, the majority of my life, like, all of the reasons not to be all that fond of myself. I was adopted at birth. It was an arranged adoption. Based on the story, because I did have the fortunate experience of meeting my biological mother when I was 36 years old. And the story that she told me was, she was a candy striper in a hospital down in South Jersey, in the Pennsauken area. And the boy that she was in love with, she was 15. And the boy that she was in love with, she was Caucasian, and he was not. And we're talking about 1962-ish. That was a time in this country when interracial hookups were taboo. And her parents, being who they were, told her, "You will never raise that child in this home." And I was put up for adoption. Their first influence to her was, "You need an abortion." So when you're told all this, and you kind of say to yourself, like, wow, it was like, nobody wanted me. And even though I was an adult when I heard this, I reverted all the way back to, like, the first time I was told that I was adopted. And I think that was about when I was 5 years old. And I was adopted into an all-black family in an all-black neighborhood. I I went to an all-black school. I played on an all-black Little League baseball team. I competed in sports with all-black athletes. I had all-black girlfriends, and I had all-black friends. And I was this complexion in the 60s, right when our country was going through a cultural revolution, the civil rights era. And I can remember being escorted to school in Newark, New Jersey by the National Guard. I can remember the first time I felt fear. And we're talking about self-love. I'm not getting off the subject because it's so important, because there are not a lot of people that I have met throughout my professional career as a counselor who possess this quality coming into treatment. And a lot for years even in the early recovery stages. And I'm talking about right up into some double-digit years of recovery. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Because I can turn up the volume. I don't need speakers. But it is a quality that not a lot of people possess, and for a number of reasons. And I was one of those people. And growing up in this black family, and right around the time I was 5 years old, and it was explained to me because I needed to know why was my skin complexion different. And you know, kids can be brutal, you know, and I got some real, I was, you know, kids at school can be brutal, in the playground can be brutal, and I grew up fighting. The only, to a point where the only way that I could build any type of relationship with somebody was through, what's the word I want to look for? Through enmity. Because I needed, when I met you, the first thought that came to my mind was to protect myself from you. And it's not a healthy psychological position for any kid to have to grow up with in fear. And we talk about all of the things, and ironic, when we talk about love, we think about, you know, and it's Valentine's Day tomorrow, and we think about the red hearts and the roses, and the love is a lot more complex than a lot of people think. And it has nothing to do, well, yes it does, but it has more to do with what an individual can give him or herself than what they can give someone else. And a lot of times it's very difficult to give anyone else something that you do not possess. You have to love yourself. And I didn't like me. I didn't love me. I didn't care for me, and I was too much of a coward. Like I'm not gonna take myself out, even though I thought about it. So the one way that I could participate in self-destructive behavior without looking that much like a coward was when I discovered drugs. And that was a really nice culture to belong to, because guess what? When you're high as a kite, no one cares what color you are. You could be polka dot. You might turn polka dot. You know, it really didn't matter as long as you could contribute in some way to getting high. And I grew up in an era where Everything was right on. Black power. The blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. And I used to wonder, where did I fit in? And I thought God had played a dirty trick on me. So this whole going to church thing was like something that bored me to death. And I understand we're in the house of the Lord. And so I will refrain from certain verbiage that may be unacceptable at this venue. But the disease of addiction has its own language. And there's nothing cute or socially or professionally appropriate about it. But it was a language that I used a lot of times because that's how I felt. F this, F that, F you, F me. And regardless of whether I said it out loud or not, the track record, my behavioral footprints throughout my lifespan developed all led to how I could care less if I lived or died. And it wasn't anything that I felt that anybody could give me that could reverse that. I learned how to put value on myself by, I like beating up bullies. I hate bullies. And that made me feel good. So that was my high for a long time. That gave me comfort. It gave me security. I felt okay but it wasn't about just the bully. It was that this was one person who couldn't hurt me. I was a danger to everybody around me with this mindset. And all I could ever think about was how dare they put me in this position. So it was never my fault. It was your fault. It was my parents' fault. It was the kids at school fault. It was the people who put me up for adoption's fault. It was the people, and it was the people in my family. And the family dynamic plays a major role in how an individual will either feel a part of or apart from that family. And sometimes there's nothing that you can offer an individual to make him or her feel the love that you're trying to give them, because if it's foreign, if that concept is foreign to the individual, they will never recognize it. You can say it's love, and they can say, I love you, but there will be behavioral footprints that will prove different. And from the time I was 10 and I smoked my first joint, I was in love. So I thought. It was good enough, this love, for me. This warm feeling of wooziness where nothing mattered, and F you, and F that, and F everyone was comfortable. And in that culture, it was acceptable. So I could be as raunchy as I wanted to. Didn't matter what color it was that I was to anyone, I was accepted. And let alone the fact that I could fight a little bit, so there it was. I was in. This is where I belong, right here. Me and every other pothead on the planet got something in common. I took that into the military with me. I then I kept wondering why I kept getting kicked out of places. Like, I got kicked out of high school. And then my parents sent me to the Long Branch to live with my sister and went to apply for school at Long Branch High School. And Long Branch, they said, well, we got to wait for his records to come from Trenton. And, just show up Monday at 8:30. And when I got there at 8:30 on Monday morning, and I went to the office, and I'm thinking, I'm getting ready to start school here, those people looked at me as though, like, I was an animal off the leash. And they said, we're not going to be able to enroll you here. That is the impression that I had left. Listen, I got kicked out of the school system in Trenton, New Jersey didn't want me. Okay, there you go. Not this guy, he can't go to school here. Then I went to Long Branch, and Long Branch said, you cannot come to school here either. So I went to their adult learning center in Brookdale, and where there were some more misfits. So I felt like I fit in there too, because we all had we all liked the same dessert. Y'all get that? We all liked the same dessert. And we got along. And I cheated on my GED test. I had got pointers. I couldn't pay attention in school. And it was not that I wasn't intelligent. I was smart. Learning was easy. Concentrating was hard. Because in the back of my mind, I just always told myself I didn't quite fit in. What is she saying about me? Because people were more interested, and it annoys me to this day, that before they want to know who you are, they want to know what you are. I almost want to throw up on people sometimes when they ask me that. Well, what do I need? What nationality? I feel like just say, spin the wheel and pick one. I fit that because, and my biological mother told me, she said, we are Scottish, Native American, Italian, and German. And your father was Puerto Rican, and his grandfather was mixed with black. So his mother was Puerto Rican and his father was mixed with black. So my grandfather was mixed with black. And I never met him. She said she doesn't know where he is, where his family is, just that he met her at the hospital. And she was a candy striper, and he worked in the cafeteria, and they fell in love. And the first time when he came to the house to take her to the movies, her father chased him with a shotgun. And then gave her all these restrictions, and she used to like run away from home. And before she knew it, she was pregnant, and she refused to get an abortion. But I grew up with all of these ethnicities. I'm like, wow, couldn't identify with either one. Because out of that entire cocktail of ethnicities, I was raised in a West Indian / Southern household. My adopted mother passed away when I was 4. So by I'm 4 years old, I had already lost 2 mothers. My father remarried my stepmother, who was West Indian from Jamaica. And she was really good at what she did as far as being a homemaker. But people can say some of the meanest things to kids and not realize how deeply they hurt. Like if I would get in trouble, or I would cause trouble, or I would say something, you're never going to be anything. Your mother didn't want you. Your father didn't want you. Your mother was a prostitute. Your father was a white John. You know, and I grew up thinking that. I guess what, she was wrong because she was all backwards with it. You know, so she was just being mean. But with my biological mother, and I had to tell her that it was difficult for me to have that mother-son bond with her, because the woman that raised me, she still made a man out of me. She, with the help of my adopted father, I had manners, and because my ADHD medication was leather. And I knew, like, you didn't have to put a blue leash on me when we went to the store. Like, I knew not to touch stuff. And I knew not to ask for anything. So I got a paper route when I was 12. Because it was things that I wanted, but I didn't think anybody could ever give them to me. I felt like I had to earn everything. And I felt like this my whole life, that nobody would ever give you anything. And he told me that. My adopted father said there's nothing people are going to give you for free. You've got to work hard for everything you get. And I learned that too. I got my first paper route when I was 10. Had it till I was 15, until I finally got kicked out of high school and had to move down here with my sister, and got my GED, went to the Navy, and what did I do that for? Because that's when my addiction took off. I'm not saying drug use was manageable, still got in trouble, still not supposed to be running around all high and doing dumb stuff like I was. But when I got to the Navy and I found out it was everywhere. So here it is, I'm in the military, and I'm, you know, protecting my country. I was half high all the time. I couldn't protect nobody. I could barely protect myself. You know how many times I got pickpocketed? Bananas. I have no idea what I was thinking. But this was the life for me. You're going to bury me, you're going to bury me with, you make sure you draw a marijuana leaf on my forehead. Because I'm going to the grave like this. When they came home, they had this stuff called crack. And I was good at selling it at first. I was good at selling it because I sold the weed. I was making money. I came home because I turned into a little gangster in the Navy. Yeah, I smoked weed, but I sold it. I lent money. If you loan $20, you get 40 back. You loan 100, you get 200 back. And the NIS investigated me, but couldn't catch me because I never bought drugs on base. I wasn't that stupid. Like I said, I don't know any unintelligent addicts. I've yet to meet one. Anybody who is able to maintain a substance abuse habit of any kind, any period of time, is highly intelligent, because it takes a highly intelligent individual to plan that meticulously to maintain a habit when he's broke most of the time, with no job, even if he's getting the money from his parents. The things that he has to come up with, signed Epstein's mother. Y'all remember that? Some weird stuff that you got to ask people, and you conjure up. My mother died about 4 times. Yeah. My father was in a coma a couple of times. Forget about it. And I got robbed hundreds. And I had, I guess at the end, I was faced with a guy who had burned every bridge that was ever built for him or that he had built himself. I had trashed any significant relationship with any other human being that I could think of. And I found myself in a jail cell on a thin, beat-down mattress with God knows what kind of stains on it, and a pillow about this thick that I had to just roll up and tie with shoestring just to have it about this round, and an itchy blanket in the jail cell. Because I didn't know how to love myself enough to take care of me. I didn't love me. From the time they told me that, I stopped liking me. And I didn't want to be blacker. I didn't go try to get tans, and I didn't want to be whiter. I didn't want my hair to be straight. I just wanted to be me. I just want to, like, I kind of understood the concept of, or the difference, or there shouldn't be a dichotomy between belonging and individuality at a young age. Like, I have stuff to contribute. I caught myself just thinking, I have things to contribute. I have qualities that are socially significant. Why don't I fit in? Why don't I love me? Because you got a question. When I talk about behavioral footprints, pumping poison into your system 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days out of the year does not constitute a healthy connection to yourself. And the disconnect is psychological and emotional. People that commit suicide rarely show signs and symptoms. And I had, by all rights, I shouldn't even be here. I never did heroin. I didn't do opiates. I didn't do powders or pills. But if you could roll it up in something and light it up and smoke it, I didn't care what it was. And so when I came home from the Navy, they had this thing called crack. And then I found out that I could crush this up and put it on weed. And then it offered another high. And if you drank alcohol, it created a fourth drug. Chemically, the mixture of cocaine, marijuana, and alcohol create a fourth drug. I forget the name of it. But it's more difficult to get off of that. That's when they had the poly substance abuse diagnosis in the DSM-4. Because you could create an entirely new drug with the mixture of different drugs. And there are other combinations that create a different drug. But what these things do also is they eat at certain areas of the brain, where the brain starts to malfunction in certain areas, like in the hippocampus area, where you can't grasp the concept of information. You're smart, you can articulate, you can even use the verbiage. But the understanding of the concept, for some reason you can't, it doesn't make sense here. And a lot of times we wonder, we can talk till we're blue in the face. You ever get that one? Like, we can talk until we're blue in the face, but this person just can't get it because of the damage that they're continuing to do through the use of the substances. I never got support from my family throughout my entire addiction. I was never able to call home when I ended up in a detox and say I needed t-shirts, socks, toothpaste, and cigarettes. To me, I was better off because I could function better. I felt more comfortable. I fit in better in the streets. And I felt like that's where I was going to be. And then I woke up into this jail cell after there was no one else to turn to except myself. And I had been to AA meetings and NA meetings in jail. And I heard the concept of we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. The second step is one of my favorite steps in recovery. The first sentence in the first paragraph in the basic text of one of the outside 12-step self-help support groups. The first sentence in the first paragraph says, this step is necessary if we wish to achieve ongoing recovery. And it was a point where it wasn't that I was tired of getting high. I probably right now today, if there were no consequences, I'd probably be lit. But the consequences, I was tired of being captured and shackled and thrown in a cage like a zoo animal. I have over 60 arrests. I have over 30 convictions. Now, when I say convictions, when you're given a citation and a fine, it's a conviction. It's considered a conviction. If you plead guilty, if they say, plead guilty, we'll give you a fine, let you go home. That's a conviction. The public defender gets a little bonus. The judge is happy. I got a fat fine, the courts are gonna make money. And then there's the VCCB, Violent Crime Compensation Board. You know that one thing that they say, and you got $25 VCCB, and you think you've paid the whole fine or 30 days for not paying this fine, and you get out, and now you got 2 VCCBs, because they never go away. State imposed penalties, you have to pay them. So I'm at the end of my rope. I didn't know, because I don't want to take up the whole hour, but I didn't know that I still had pending charges and fines in 7 different municipalities in 2 different states. I was that uncomfortable, I could never stay in one place too long. I had to keep moving. The old saying, a rolling stone gathers no moss. I lived by that, but I was an outlaw, not a gangster, which means I lived by my own creed, not yours. But at this gangster, when he faced with himself, for some reason, I thought that I had more to offer. And I had a daughter who gave me a speech in freaking jail that turned my life around. Because her mother, I don't know how they got through. You're supposed to call home. I was in solitary confinement. They let me call home. I'm talking to my daughter about, she did something in school, and then I kind of ended it. I said, when we know what you're capable of, and you just don't try, do you know how that makes us feel? And she said, Dad, this is a 10-year-old. what do you mean? I said, you know what I mean. We try hard. We give you everything. And then you just don't even try. She says, no, wait, stop. How it makes you feel. How do you think it makes me feel? I got to tell the kids when they say, where's your dad, that you're down south. Because that's in the hood, we use that one when people are locked up and you don't want to say they're locked up. You just say they're down south. She said, how do you think it makes me feel? I can't bring you daddy-daughter day. How do you think it makes me feel? You're not here to help me with my homework. And I had to grow some accountability. She turned my thinking around. So I ended up, they let me out of jail again. I was like, but wait a minute, I know I owe this court, and I know I did this over here. Why don't you call them? Because I wanted to take care of all this right now. They said, we ain't taking you nowhere. Get your stuff, you're out. And I made a couple calls, and a friend of mine that I knew owned some recovery houses, some in Trenton, and they just opened one in Neptune. And I called him, and he was like, yeah, come on, I got you. And I'm thinking I'm going to one of the ones in Trenton, because there was like 5 of them. And we started down 195. Where am I going? Can't do this in Trenton, man. You're going over here to Neptune. I didn't step foot back in Trenton for 3 years. I'm going to tell you a little bit about where I am right now. Because in 2007, I decided to go back to school. In 2003, I made a decision to work in this field. I could drive. I could have drove trucks. I felt like I probably should have. I wouldn't owe the government all this money right now for school. But I had made a decision that I wanted to make a difference for everybody else who struggled emotionally, psychologically, and socially with the disease of addiction, coupled with mental health issues. Because what I didn't realize is that all those years, I had suffered from a deep depression. And in 2002, I was offered a job with New Hope when it was at the old Marlboro State Hospital school grounds. And they heard that, they heard my story because they asked me to come speak at the alumni picnic. And after the alumni picnic, they said, had you ever been considered being a counselor before? And I said, yeah, it was offered to me before because, what's Governor, is it Florio? Governor Florio? Jim Florio?
Jim McGreevey.
No, not McGreevey. Florio, before that. And I'm talking 1993. 1993, I was with a program called Operation Fatherhood. It was for non-custodial fathers. And I went down and I spoke. I was at the National Governors Convention Conference in D.C. as a representative of the city of Trenton and Operation Fatherhood because of the volunteer work that I did with that program. And they offered to send me to, at that time it was called Trenton State College. Mm-hmm. Now it's the University of New Jersey. The College of New Jersey. Yeah. It was Trenton State back then. They offered me a full scholarship for that. And I turned it down. I said, I don't want to. I got enough problems of my own. I ain't dealing with other people's. And then the mayor of Trenton at the time, he asked me, along with the UPI, they asked me to represent the city of Trenton at the Minority Male Convention. That was an honor. It's an honor now that people think that I have something significant to contribute, that I can say something that somebody actually might want to hear that may actually help moving forward with finding a solution-based answer to an issue that they're dealing with when it comes to the disease of addiction coupled with mental health, homelessness, and other social issues. And it's an honor. And they asked me, and they offered me a partial scholarship to go to Mercer County College. It was twice I was offered the opportunity to be a counselor. And I'm like, I got my own stuff. But then when I spoke at New Hope, and her name was Madeline Smith, and I loved her. And she said, come to work for us and we'll send you to school for free. You need to be in this field. We need you. I accepted it, I haven't looked back, and I decided to go back to school. Right now, I have an associate's degree in criminal justice, a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's degree in general studies in human behavior, with a postgraduate certificate in contemporary theories and addictive behavior. And I just finished all my curriculums, the educational curriculum, for my second master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. And I did it all online, and I sacrificed my social life, and I found out that that's what love is. Love is when I have a purpose that drives me, because I don't want to see other people in pain. That this gives me joy. Where I was able to add value to me. Where I didn't do a personal inventory, I did a personal appraisal. Like when you do an inventory, things are already tagged in price. Yeah, but when you do an appraisal, you put the value on it. And I learned the difference. And I value me. And I love me today. And my behavioral footprints from August the 8th, 2000 to now are clear indication that I love me today. And right on time for Valentine's Day. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you so much, Jonathan, and I appreciate the humor that you added to it. Okay, so now we're going to do what we do off camera. So those of you who are not with us, we will be shutting you out now. You're going to be missing out on a lot of fun. We're going to break off into our small groups. So let me just end this news feed. Have a nice night.